Welcome back to story time! It's been just a little while because life gets busy and deal with it. Hopefully the sound is a lot better. I finally invested in a microphone. Inexpensive, but hey, it works. So, this video is called Trash Talking Sign Language Scouts. Khalila, tongue twister, right? Trash Talking Sign Language Scouts. So, as you might have guessed, I was a scout when I was younger. So, we would meet like every Wednesday in the local building to talk about the camps coming up, merit badges, service projects that we were going to be doing, basic scouting stuff. Now, obviously, I was really young at the time. But it was usually like me and a group of friends or whatever else. We all knew each other pretty well. Well, at this time, usually we would all go into a room and we would just set up the chairs in like a circle. And that way nobody was in front of anybody else, nobody was behind anybody else, but we could all get our ideas in, see everyone. And for a long time, it was just the people I knew. And one week, 2 new young guys showed up and we're like, okay, cool. I don't remember if they were brothers or just friends. I'm assuming friends, but I could be very wrong. It's been a long time. So they came in and I was a little bit confused at first because generally when you go to a new place with someone, you both sit together. Instead, one chose one side of the circle, the other chose the other side of the circle. So they could still obviously see each other really well, but opposite sides. And I was like, whatever, okay, didn't really care anymore. So we had our meeting and everything went fine. They didn't really ever stay after the meetings. A lot of us would stay, hang out in the building, whatever, and just talk and chill. They would always immediately go home. Well, the next week comes, they once again come to the meeting, which is great. You always want people to return. So they come to the meeting and they still sit on opposite sides. And this time, probably a good 5 or 10 minutes in, as we're talking about a camp and discussing stuff, we noticed that the one is looking straight at the other one and would quickly get their attention, and then they would start to use sign language. And they would start to sign whatever. Now, you might be thinking, as we did at first, of, okay, one of them must be hearing impaired, why you wouldn't sit next to each other, but whatever. Maybe one is hearing impaired or has a disability of some kind, and this is why they chose opposite sides, because he wants to be able to make sure that he can clearly see what the other person is signing. But you'd be very wrong. Talking to both of them, neither one of them had any hearing impairments and neither one of them had any speech impairments. They were perfectly normal kids. They were perfectly fine. So we started going, okay, why are you signing to each other then? And in the middle of a meeting, like we're all trying to talk and you're just moving your hands and just talking to each other. Very obviously, they're not trying to hide it at all because it's really hard to try to hide sign language if you've ever watched it.
What Americans are saying. And some very valid concerns are being raised. But this is not a battle that will be won overnight.
So we're going, what in the world? What is going on? But I also noticed that if you ever watch sign language, there's 2 differences. There's
A, B, C.
Doing the alphabet, the A, B, C, D, and actual complex signs. Whole words. Just like in normal language, I'm not going to turn to you and say D-O-Y-O-U-W-A-N-T. That takes a long time to get stuff through when you're just trying to spell it. But that's what they were doing. They were doing short words or phrases where they were just spelling them out. And we were like, whoa, okay, whatever. Now you might wonder why the Scoutmaster doesn't say anything on this. We'll talk about that. But usually scouting is very loud when you have a whole group of boys around each other. We are talkative, we are rambunctious, so a silent distraction is better than the loud distractions that we were normally giving. So they were probably told, hey, can you guys knock it off? And they'd, okay, and they would stop. So this went on for a couple of meetings. We would come on Wednesdays, they would sign for a little bit of the meeting, but then we started noticing, so I asked my friends, and we all noticed that every once in a while, one of them would point or quickly gesture to one of us in the circle and then sign something. And we're like, what in the world is going on? Are they being rude about it? Or are they trying to point something out? Like, what is going on? So I decided, in my own mind, hey, it's just the alphabet. How hard can that be to learn? So what did I do? I went home and I found the alphabet in sign language. Now, the great part is, it was a win-win because the old Scout handbook had an entire page or two on the sign language alphabet. I was like, yes, I can learn the alphabet in sign language and I can know what they're talking about. Now, just like any language with this, there's a very big difference between hearing it and speaking it. Just like with sign language, of course you're not hearing it and speaking it, but there's a large difference between performing the hand gestures and being able to interpret the hand gestures. So as I'm starting to try to memorize the different letters, I'm like, okay, A, B, C. I realize I know how to make them, but the entire purpose of this is I want to be able to read what he is saying. So I had to do what any kid would do. I walked in front of the mirror and just started Those are not signs, by the way. My brain is getting mixed up. They got A, B, C, and I'm trying to go through the alphabet, but make sure it's like in the mirror so I can see the angle of the hand. Whoa. Now, I wanted to do this before the next meeting, so I had a week to learn sign language. A week to learn the alphabet in sign language. Let me clarify that. So I'm studying the pages, and I also found out that my mom had a sign language dictionary. So that was also kind of fun. So I took the week to practice signing and figuring out what things were and how to say them. And I was just learning the alphabet. Now, I get back to the Scout meeting, and we sit around, and sure enough, the two kids still came. And same thing is happening. Every once in a while, they're starting to just sign, doing whatever. Now, the problem with this is that I'm not just staring at these kids the entire meeting. I'm not just going to stare at one or stare at the other. I'm listening to the Scoutmaster. Imagine that. I was focused. So it's really hard to catch what somebody is signing or trying to spell out when you couldn't see every letter that they're using to spell it out. You don't just see it in the middle of a word and go, oh, I know what that was. It doesn't work. So I had to wait until I could actually have a chance of seeing them sign it fully. So here's what ended up happening. Throughout the meeting, I think they tried it a few times, but finally at one point, I see the one gesture to me. I think I had just finished asking the Scoutmaster a question. It was probably an obvious question like, hey, do we have to bring sleeping bags to this campout or something stupid? I was a kid, I didn't care. So I ask my question and I see a hand off to the side. And so I look over and I see this kid and he starts signing to his friend. And I am trying to focus on every letter that he is signing as he is going. And I'm going, okay. And I'm spelling it out in my head. So it takes a moment to go, okay. Because it's no longer a full thing. I have to not only pay attention to the signs I just learned, but also spell it out in my head as he's going. And I'm watching, and after about a second or so of him signing, I smiled to myself because I realized what he just said. And so I decided to take this moment to call him out on this. And I said, hey, now, by the way, when I say this, this is not me being rude in any way. I am simply telling him what he spelled. And I turned and said, hey. And he looks and goes, yeah. I said, just wanted to let you know that you spelled retard wrong. It's actually got 2 R's. R-E-A-R-E-T-A-R-D. And he, you know sign language? And I said, actually, I just learned this last week. By the way, he was really slow with his signs.
V A B.
Like, he didn't really do it very fast at all. So he must have just been a very, very beginner and didn't care. But I said, yeah, I actually just learned sign language this week to find out what you were saying. And by the way, you are really slow with your signs. Like, you're very beginner at them. And I was a beginner. And he just, oh, okay. Hands went to the sides. So, yeah, he had pointed at me and was trying to tell his friend that I was a retard in the middle of a scout meeting, and then got called on it by the person he was signing at. Yes! And in my head, I'm like, yes, victory! I got what I wanted. I found out what they were talking about. And yeah, they were trash talking in sign language. So much for a scout as honest and trustworthy. So, it was really awkward for that kid for that moment because his hands went down to his side. He no longer signed at all during the meeting. His friend didn't either. And then after the meeting, of course, they were gone after that meeting. They didn't want to stay after it all. And strangely enough, they never came back to our scout meetings. I wonder why. But yeah. And my friends afterwards came up to me and they went, wait, seriously? What happened? And I explained it to them. I said, yeah, I wanted to know what they were signing about because we'd been talking about it. And so I learned the alphabet and sign language, and they were trash talking about us. They were pointing to people and making fun of us and joking about it. And they all went, oh, how'd you learn the sign language alphabet? And so I went through it and I'm like, guys, it's pictures right here. So just practice it. And so then for a good 5 or so minutes, everybody was practicing A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, sign language alphabet. So it was quite funny to learn the alphabet to find out people were trash talking about us. But you gotta learn the language for some reason, right? Now, ironically enough, later on, I actually found out that somebody in my neighborhood was deaf, and we started hanging out. So I actually started learning more sign language. So it ended up helping me to cultivate a friendship. So sign language for the win, right? Thank you, Scouting, for helping me to learn sign language and partially teach it. So just for kicks and giggles, I tried, I want to say about a year ago or so, to start learning again, and found they actually have online, it's not an online class, but they are online pre-recorded lessons. It's an entire website. I'll actually link it down below. I'll put it in the description, which is actually pretty cool. Sign language, just for those of you that don't know, you don't actually speak just a normal sentence. Sign language is actually closer apparently to Chinese than English, because you're not just signing the words in the same order that you would in English. It's a totally different language. So, and I never learned the semantics of it. I just learned the alphabet, and I learned it as they call it pidgin, because I would just use the words as I would normally speak them. So deal with it. But that is all about the scouts who were trash talking sign language. So if you have any stories about learning a new language and finding out people are trash talking about you or around you, which happens a lot.
How's your aunt?
Yeah, she's all right.
Oye, la tía de una italiana que está buenísima.
¿Cómo está tu hija, eh?
How's your aunt?
Yeah, she's all right.
Oye, la tía de una italiana que está buenísima.
¿Cómo está tu hija, eh?
This one's my experience. And have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and go ahead and hit the little bell notification down below, because otherwise you're never going to find out I'm uploading a video, which I'm trying to get better at doing now. So have an awesome day, and thanks for joining us in Storytime.